What's up, world? I am comedian Joel Byers, and after 10 years in stand up comedy and over 200 interviews with comics on my Hop Breath podcast, I'm here to share with you the most helpful comedy books that every comic needs to read. Hop Breath. So, first things first, you gotta learn the fundamentals. And I'm a comedian, not a videographer, not a fancy YouTuber. I'm just here to give you the raw information about the books you need to level up your comedy. So the first out of the gate, Greg Dean's Step by Step to Stand-Up Comedy. And I'm not sponsored by him. This was just the first book I've read. You could tell by how weathered it is. This is the first book I ever read cover to cover in stand-up comedy over 10 years ago. And this is a great book to learn the fundamentals of stand-up comedy. It really breaks down one-liners specifically and how to organize and the mechanism of taking an idea and formulating it into a one-liner joke. He has a really good system for that, which is where I started. I do more storytelling and a little more of a conversational approach to my stand-up now, but it all started with learning the rules, because you got to learn the rules before you can break them. This is a great place to learn the rules of joke writing, as well as rehearsing your set, preparing your set. This is just a really good resource for where do I even start type deal. So this, by the way, is linked in the comments with all the other books I'm going to talk about today. But hang out with me till the end, and I'm going to share an opportunity to where you can actually get all of these books for free as well. So the second one out the gate, Steve Martin, Born Standing Up. Not only is Steve Martin my favorite comic, but he has blazed the trail for so many of us comics, not only from just being successful outside of stand-up, in terms of, his music career, he's a writer, he's a director, he's so much more than a stand-up comic. But he was actually the first comic to start selling out arenas and really put stand-up comedy on that next level from a business standpoint. And what's interesting, as we talk about this book, breaking down the fundamentals of joke writing, how to, set up, punch, misdirect the audience, Steve Martin's approach to comedy was actually the absence of a punchline. And he talks about in his book how he started to find comedy in the absence of structure, in the absence of a formula within comedy, which I think really is what made him stand out from the comedy at the time, was him looking at what's popular and how can I do the opposite and make that even more popular. And this book is not only just about his process, it's about the early struggles of being a comedian. Seriously, in San Francisco, performing in front of a window to get people to come into the empty venue he was performing at. So many amazing stories, and this is known in the comedy community as a must-read by the most well-respected comics in the game. This book gives you the most realistic, brutally honest, transparent, just raw reality that is the pursuit of stand-up comedy. Even Jerry Seinfeld says on the cover right here, absolutely magnificent, one of the best books about comedy and being a comedian ever written. And that's from Jerry Seinfeld. And this is coming from Joel Byers as well, which is me, and you probably forgot already. But it's all good. Steve Martin's Born Standing Up, a must-read for anyone that wants to pursue comedy as their profession and take it seriously. Must read, and the audiobook is really good because Steve actually reads it as well. Check it out. The next one, I Killed. When we're talking about reality, okay, and how Steve Martin's book gives you that raw reality of the early days of stand-up, starting out in stand-up, and he traces his career to the immense success and his eventual hiatus from stand-up. And I say hiatus because I do feel like I hope he comes back, and then he can come on my Hop Breath podcast and we can talk about it together. But this book, I Killed, another must read from, this was compiled by Rich Snyder and Mark Schiff. But what I actually was looking for is the foreword is written by Jerry Seinfeld. This is that raw reality that we're talking about of life on the road. Every comic, and in my podcast, the number one question I always ask, their favorite advice for comics. But I also ask their worst show, their worst booze story, their worst bombing, their most unforgettable experience in comedy. And everyone has these experiences. Everyone has these crazy moments on stage. And this book compiles those moments from some of the best. I mean, just look at the cover. Chris Rock, Jay Leno, Larry the Cable Guy, Jeff Foxworthy. I mean, the best tell their stories of the worst of their shows in this book. So it's a very entertaining read, but it's also very insightful in terms of what am I getting myself into here as a comedian? And this is why, and maybe a big reason why so many comics are trying to blow up on the internet instead of getting blown up while performing for, 4 people at a show they drove 5 hours to make $5 that the booker said they don't have. That's the reality. I've driven 12 hours one way for a show. We all do these. We all do these gigs as comedians. And this is a fun, entertaining look into that side of stand-up. And the final book. And remember, if you are enjoying this video, if you do enjoy this channel, do go ahead and subscribe and support what we're building here, which is the Hot Breath Comedy Network, where we are cultivating the next generation of great comics. And the final book, Finding Your Funny, the Comics Playbook. This is actually a book that I wrote with MIT alum Dr. Robert Joseph. And this is really a joke writing handbook. There's a lot of books with formulas, but I have found that when you write your jokes in a formula, you start to sound formulaic. You start to deliver with that rigidity of a formula. So I wanted to design this book with the voice in mind, and every comic wants to find their voice. So I really designed this book to help comics find their voice, giving them exercises to not only generate those personal, emotional ideas, but then how to formulate them into jokes and organize them into a tight 5-minute set. So this is going to be a great manual for that you can have as a resource. It's a friendly reminder. There's a lot of helpful exercises in here that I wish I had starting out in comedy over 10 years ago. And it's a fun dynamic because I'm coming at it from the approach as a professional comedian, but Dr. Robert Joseph is actually an aspiring comedian who also has an extremely, extremely educated math background. So we're able to find the structure behind these ideas of finding emotion, but then how do you formulate that into the language of comedy? So this one's super helpful as well. But all 4 of these are really going to help you in your comedy career, whether it is from the skill side of it or whether it is from just the reality side of it, of what am I getting myself into? These books are going to give you a realistic expectation, and what it comes down to is the work. I've interviewed over 200 comics, you name it, Cedric the Entertainer, Mark Normand, Dan Soder, Tommy Davidson. There's over 200 interviews I've done, and they're all on wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, and they're all on this YouTube channel as well. And the number one piece of advice has been you gotta get on stage. You gotta do the work. So all of these books are going to help you add perspective, add structure to your jokes and things like that. But you see, I'm trying to fan them out. Told you I'm not a YouTuber, I'm a comic. But what you need the most, you got to put it to work. None of this will work unless you work. So, and that comes down to getting on stage. So if you'd like an opportunity to actually get all 4 of these books for free, I love helping comics. That's what Hot Breath is all about. That's my whole mission in stand-up comedy. I love helping comics learn from the mistakes I've made. So what I wanted to do as a helpful resource is share a giveaway to where it's linked in the comments to where you can get the opportunity to get all 4 of these books for free. And if you're watching this after the fact, there is also links to get these books as well if the giveaway is over, because this is a limited time giveaway. But I really wanted to create a video that I wish existed when I started comedy about where do I begin, what are some helpful resources. So these 4 books are really going to be helpful resources throughout your entire comedy career. You know what to do. You've seen enough YouTube videos. There's a description, you click a link, fill out the information for the giveaway, and I will mail you these 4 books. Thanks. So if you enjoy learning about stand-up comedy, you are going to love Hot Breath Podcast. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, keep up with our weekly videos, and keep grinding, kids. Good luck.